Mom's tone shifted effortlessly, like slipping into another mask. By the way, she said, as if we hadn't just argued, Tyler's wedding venue in Hawaii needs deposits soon. We thought you could pitch in about $10,000. Her request landed like a slap. Just minutes earlier, both of them had dismissed my quiet plea for repayment of the loans I'd been handing out for years. Dad leaned back in his chair, nodding solemnly. Family helps family, he added, as if the words were some sacred commandment carved in stone. Before I could respond, a firm knock rattled the front door, pulling their attention away. They had no idea who it was, or how much of my truth was waiting to surface. I'm Luna, 27 years old, and I teach third grade at Oakwood Elementary. My life hasn't been one of extravagance or luxury. I can still recall the excitement of my very first paycheck at 16, earned from long weekends working at the mall. My friends rushed out to spend theirs on clothes, gadgets, and little indulgences. Me, I handed most of mine straight to my parents for the so-called family emergency fund. That set a pattern that never ended. For more than 11 years, I became the invisible cushion under every one of their financial missteps. My brother's car broke down. They'd tell him, call Luna. Mom racked up credit card debt? Ask Luna. She'll figure it out. Dad found himself tangled up in taxes? Luna will handle it. Meanwhile, my younger brother Tyler pursued his big money career in investment banking, living high above the city in a sleek apartment, sipping cocktails at rooftop bars. I lived with a roommate in a modest two-bedroom, clipping coupons and stretching my teacher salary as far as I could. Despite the imbalance, I never turned them down. Over the years, the total I loaned them crept past $32,000. And because I wasn't naive, I always insisted on handwritten IOUs. They signed them with exaggerated flourishes, rolling their eyes like I was ridiculous for formalizing a family matter. To them it was silly. To me it was proof. A paper trail. Evidence. They never realized that while I wasn't buying luxury cars or jetting off to Bora Bora, I was quietly building something more valuable than any vacation photo album: meticulous documentation. A record of every single dollar. If you've ever been used by your own family, made to feel like you were ungrateful simply for asking for respect, you know this sting. And you know you're not alone. 6 months ago, my body finally broke before my patience did. A wisdom tooth became infected, swelling my jaw until the pain pulsed all the way up into my temple. The emergency dentist didn't sugarcoat it. I needed immediate surgery. The cost? $3,200 up front. I didn't have it. My emergency fund had been drained year after year to rescue my family from their own emergencies. I sat trembling in my car in the dentist parking lot and dialed my mom. My voice cracked. I hate to ask, but I need help. Just until payday. Her reply was ice wrapped in honey. Oh, sweetie, we're really tight on money right now. Can't you just put it on a credit card? 2 days earlier, I had seen Tyler proudly park his brand new BMW in their driveway. The same brother who borrowed $5,000 from me last year for investment capital and never brought it up again. I put the surgery on my credit card, then stacked tutoring shifts on top of my full-time teaching job until the debt was gone. The dental pain healed. But the wound of that phone call, their refusal to help after years of me being their safety net, never closed. Last Sunday, at our weekly family dinner, I finally forced myself to ask for accountability. While spooning mashed potatoes onto my plate, I found my voice. Mom, about that $5,000 you borrowed last month for the roof repairs, when do you think you'll be able to pay some of it back? The room fell silent. Mom set her wine glass down with a sharp click against the table. Her smile was sugar, but her eyes cut like glass. Oh, darling, that wasn't a loan. That was you doing your part as family. We've given you everything. Dad nodded, swallowing a mouthful of roast. We raised you, paid for your schooling. In a family, you don't keep score. Heat rushed to my face. But I have written IOUs for every dollar, I said quietly. Tyler snorted, choking on laughter. You really thought those were legally binding, sis? They don't mean anything. My stomach turned. The humiliation was sour, heavy. Don't you understand what no means, Luna? Mom snapped suddenly. We are not your bank anymore. The irony nearly made me laugh, except it hurt too much. For years, they had used me as their personal ATM. And now, when I asked for what was mine, I was the greedy one. And then, without missing a beat, Mom switched the subject with her usual polished ease. Anyway, Tyler's wedding venue in Hawaii needs deposits soon. Since you don't have kids or a mortgage, we figured you could cover about $10,000. That was only the beginning of the betrayals. 2 weeks later, I scrolled through Instagram and froze. There they were. Mom, Dad, Tyler, his fiancée, her parents, and a crowd of friends all gathered around a long candlelit table at Riverstone, the priciest restaurant in the city. Laughter, wine glasses raised, the caption tagged, "Wedding Planning Dinner." I texted Mom immediately. "What dinner was this?" She replied breezily, "Oh, just the planning dinner for the wedding. Immediate family and close friends only." "But I am immediate family," I typed back. Her answer came fast, like she had it ready. "You know what I mean, Luna. The people directly involved in the wedding planning. Directly involved in paying for it, apparently. But not worthy of being included." The second betrayal came on the 4th of July, during the neighborhood barbecue. I was loading my plate with grilled corn when I overheard her voice near the fire pit, talking to Mrs. Peterson and a circle of neighbors. "We're worried about Luna," she said, feigning concern. "She's struggling with money again. That's why she refused to contribute to Tyler's bachelor party. Poor thing's just never been good with finances. Bless her heart. We've tried to guide her, but she just doesn't listen." My hands trembled so badly I had to set my plate down. Pitying eyes turned toward me, neighbors whispering. The truth was simple. I didn't pay for the Vegas bachelor trip because I was still drowning in debt from the dental surgery, the surgery they abandoned me on. And then came the third, the one that broke me. After I finally said no to another loan request, Dad began calling daily. His voice was heavy, dripping guilt. "Your grandmother's medical bills are piling up. If you can't help family, who will? Just $3,000 would make such a difference." The guilt gnawed at me until I couldn't take it anymore. I drove out to see Grandma at her retirement community, and that's when I learned the truth for myself. When I first mentioned the medical bills, Mom blinked at me as if I were speaking another language. "What bills, darling? My insurance covers everything. I haven't paid a dime out of pocket." Her confusion knocked the air from my lungs. That night, alone in my apartment, I sat cross-legged on the floor surrounded by years of evidence. Text threads, bank transfers, vague IOUs scribbled on notepads, and excuses layered on excuses. Slowly, methodically, I began putting it all into order. A spreadsheet became my map, dates in one column, amounts in another, excuses in the third. I pulled up screenshots, luxury handbags, resort getaways, expensive watches, purchases made within days of emergency pleas. I had even started recording phone calls, perfectly legal in my state, because I knew their words would one day matter more than mine. Each new piece of proof twisted my stomach into knots, but at the same time, the fog in my mind began to clear. The final confirmation came at our last family dinner. Mom was lecturing me about how selfish I was being for not helping more with Tyler's wedding when I noticed something sparkling on Dad's wrist. A brand new Breitling. Price tag, $8,500. Months earlier, I had seen him eyeing the same watch in a catalog left out on the coffee table. I later found the receipt, purchased the day after I had loaned them $10,000 for supposed back property taxes. That moment hardened something inside me. This wasn't about being repaid anymore. This was about ending the endless cycle of guilt and manipulation. They had mistaken me for a naive daughter who would always come running. But I was also a teacher, and teachers keep meticulous notes. Rachel's office smelled faintly of leather and lemon polish. It felt professional, orderly, safe. She listened, then slid a card across her desk. "Call Elena Martinez. She specializes in family law. You'll want her on your side." Elena's eyes were sharp as she flipped through my folder. The soft tapping of her pen filled the silence. "This isn't just about unpaid loans," she said finally. "This is a long pattern of financial abuse." The word abuse stung, but deep down I knew she was right. "Do I have a case?" I asked, voice smaller than I wanted. She nodded, steady and sure. "Yes, The IOUs are enforceable. The bank records are undeniable. You have grounds to demand full repayment with interest. As she began preparing filings, my family only pressed harder. During a parent-teacher conference, my phone buzzed with a group text from Mom. Great news! We've committed you for $8,000 toward Tyler's honeymoon. The agent needs payment by Friday. We know teachers don't make much, but family sacrifices for family. I showed Elena. She sighed, shook her head, and started typing. With this level of exploitation, we should run a credit check. The results rattled even her calm professionalism. Years earlier, while I was living at home after college, Tyler had opened a credit card in my name. My credit, once pristine, had been ruined by his spending sprees and missed payments. This isn't just abuse, Elena said firmly. This is fraud. Your brother committed identity theft. As if on cue, my phone rang. Dad's name lit up. I answered. Luna, you've developed quite the attitude problem, he snapped. We're having a family meeting Sunday. Be there. Elena met my eyes and mouthed, perfect. That Sunday, I parked outside their house. Through the window, I saw them waiting like judges on a tribunal. Mom with her stiff posture in her favorite chair. Dad looming by the fireplace, arms folded. Tyler sprawled across the couch, glued to his phone. You ready? Elena asked from the passenger seat, her briefcase resting on her lap. I nodded. The time for being their bank is over. The familiar scent of cinnamon potpourri clung to the entryway as I stepped inside. Sit down, Luna, Mom said, gesturing toward the ottoman, the same humiliating spot where I'd been lectured countless times. I'll stand, I replied. Actually, I've invited someone. Before Dad could protest, I opened the door. Elena entered, heels clicking with precision, briefcase in hand. This is Elena Martinez, I announced. My attorney. The room froze. She's here to discuss the $32,476 you owe me, plus interest, and the fraudulent credit card activity in my name. Tyler jumped up, knocking over his glass. His face drained of blood. You're suing us? Over a few loans. They weren't gifts, I said evenly. They were loans, with terms, dates, and your signatures. Mom gave a shaky laugh. Sweetheart, those were just silly papers. We didn't mean. The law takes them very seriously, Elena interrupted, spreading documents across the coffee table. Here are the signed notes. Here are the bank transfers, and here are the court orders freezing your accounts, pending resolution. Dad's face turned crimson. You froze our accounts. The judge did, Elena corrected calmly. Financial abuse is taken seriously here. Tyler stammered, we're family. Families help each other. Is that why you opened a credit card in my name? I shot back. He froze. His silence was the only admission I needed. That was a mistake, he muttered. I was going to pay it off. The $12,000 balance and years of missed payments suggest otherwise, Elena said, sliding the credit report into view. Mom burst into tears. How could you do this to us? After everything we've done for you. Elena remained unmoved. You have 30 days to make arrangements. If not, we proceed to full litigation, including fraud charges against Tyler. Dad's anger dissolved into pleading. We're your family. I looked at them, the same people who had drained me dry for years. My voice was steady when I answered. No, family doesn't steal from family. Elena closed her briefcase. We'll be in touch. We walked out together, and for the first time, I didn't look back. 3 months later, the court forced repayment through a monitored plan. I received every cent, plus interest. The judge wasn't swayed by their protests of misunderstanding. Paper trails don't lie. Tyler faced additional consequences for fraud, financial counseling, and a settlement that would take him years to pay. His Hawaiian wedding dreams shrank to a modest country club affair. The family who once scolded me for being financially irresponsible now avoided my calls altogether. Mom occasionally sends bitter texts about how I ruined Tyler's special day. Dad hasn't spoken to me since the hearing. I took part of the recovered money and put it towards something they swore I'd never achieve, a home of my own. A modest 2-bedroom with a little yard, where I'm now planting a garden. My garden. My peace. Last week, I sent them one final message. I was never your bank. I was your daughter and sister. I hope someday you'll understand the difference. Their response was silence. But this time, silence doesn't sting. It feels like liberation. Like the very first breath of a new life, one finally built on my terms.